It's Claire Desira here, and all of this isolation is reminding me of more adventurous times. I wanted to tell you about the time that four of us were standing in a stream with our hearts pounding, completely paralysed with fear. We'd been on a leadership weekend together down in Lorne. It was myself and three friends, Rich, Ange and Sel, and we were taking ourselves away for the weekend to really focus on developing and strengthening this program that we worked on. Part of that weekend, for some reason, we thought it would be a great idea to head out on a bushwalk. And we chose the path between the township of Lorne up to Erskine Falls, along the stream there in the Otways, a beautiful part of the world. The only thing is that we were halfway through the walk and Sally, who was first, walked straight over a tiger snake on the path. Now the tiger snake didn't move, but we were all paralysed. Well, all of us except for Sal. Sal was over the other side of this snake, relieved and laughing and I guess thinking, well, that was a bit of a close call. Maybe she was in shock, but here she was trying to logically talk the rest of us through how we could just walk past the snake as she had. But we were overtaken with fear and paralysed. In fact, our brains were hijacked. That's what happens in situations like this. And so no matter how much logic someone else can share with you, you can get really stuck in that emotion. So what we did was we actually took this big unnecessary detour down off the path, through along the stream a little bit and back up onto the path. We headed on our walk and our heart rate had barely settled, and all of a sudden, you wouldn't believe it, but there was another snake as well, heading in the same direction as us. Just off the side of the path was an enormous brown snake. Now, I think it saw us as we saw it. It got the big fright too, but it did what you see in the movies and documentaries. You know, it kind of reared its head up and started for us. So we bolted. We just bolted and swore and did all sorts of things to get ourselves as quickly as we could to the river. That was our plan of choice. So here we were standing each on a rock in the river, completely paralysed. And Sel was paralysed this time too. She was not laughing, I can tell you. Now, when something like this scares us, our brain becomes flooded with emotion and it can feel impossible to think logically. Logically, of course, we could have just turned around and headed back to the car. But our new truth was that there was going to be snakes everywhere. Logic had been lost in the bush somewhere. And what happens to our brains when they're hijacked is our logic is missing in action. And one of the most important things that we can learn about our brains is actually when they're working for us and when they're not. And sometimes when they're not, it's because they're wildly trying to protect us, but sometimes you need to challenge that a little bit. So it's important for us to learn about how our brains work and when they're working for us and when they're not. Because when you're fired up with emotion, you can't think as clearly as you normally would. And you don't need to actually see a snake to be fired up in emotion. When we're doing work that we really care about, or we're in high pressure environments, these strong emotions like fear and frustration and anger and worry can be lurking in the bushes everywhere, ready to jump out at any time. And even sometimes the fear of them jumping out can be enough to keep us in that really heightened state. When we're in a heightened state like this and we're trying to operate in a team, what can happen is we can narrow our focus so much that we forget what's actually true and what's actually likely, and only half solve or even avoid trying to solve problems or make things better. We can stop listening to other people and dismiss other people's ideas, let alone being able to check in on them and work more closely as a team to support your clients or customers and each other along the way. What can also happen is we can get ourselves in these wild thought loops that keep going over and over again. So what do we do when we're in this situation? We need to put things in place that can not take us from feeling wildly furious down to calm as, or take us from feeling terrified to relaxed, but it's about circuit breaking any wild thought loops long enough so that you cannot deny those feelings, but actually help them bubble away quicker or help bring them down a notch. So say being able to take feeling 10 out of 10 angry to maybe 9 out of 10 or 7 out of 10 or 5 out of 10. And when you do this, you buy yourself time. And buying time like this might stop you from sending a snarky email that might have a long-lasting impact. It might stop you from snapping at a loved one, or it might actually mean that you don't miss a solution that's right in front of you. Circuit breaking and changing your way of thinking and operating in these situations can be as simple as doing some things like taking some good old breaths, distracting yourself with some music, taking a walk around the block. There's loads of different grounding techniques that we can share with you, but they're just a few that you can keep in your back pocket. We've all got fears of stepping on, tripping over, or being bitten in some way through our work. Sometimes those fears are lurking in the bushes, and sometimes they rear their slithery heads right in your face. Oh, it still gives me cold shivers thinking about it. But whether you're working in a team or individually, if you need tools to help calm down and to be able to navigate these uncertain times, these heightened state of emotions that we're absolutely all prone to at the moment, then please reach out. Let's have a chat about how we can support your team, keep them moving forward. The tools that we teach can support with mindset and performance as much as they can around supporting people when they're feeling these heightened state of emotions. They're actually the same tools, so a really great investment to not only help navigate these uncertain times, but also to future-proof your teams. If you're not in a team at the moment, we'd still encourage you to practice and try circuit breakers that can interrupt those wild thoughts when you're in heightened state. It's a really fantastic skill to have in your toolkit. That's all from us for now. Take care of yourself and have as much fun as you can in that wild jungle out there. Watch out for snakes. Bye.